My name is Ying. I come from China in Hunan province, the central south of China. And I'm the visiting scholar here in the FLT project. I think it will be more appropriate to say that I became administrative law at first and then feminism. I remember that I became interested in administrative law in 2003. When I was a third-year student in law school, I joined the clinic and assist our Professor Li Ao to handle our administrative law case. During that case, I found that administrative law is very useful and funny. So when I got the scholarship to start my master program without exam and tuition in 2004, I chose administrative law. And before I start my master program, I found that there is a similar on gender and law in the National Institution of Law in China. And it is the first time that our Chinese law scholars to discuss the gender and law, the feminism, and Professor Li Ao have received the invitation to attend this seminar, but she was pregnant and can't go to that seminar. So she found me and asked me if I can go to that seminar and made some records for her and she can study the records. I think it's in August 2nd and to 20th. So it's in summer, I'm free, and I agreed I go to that seminar. And after I attend that seminar, I found that it is really a big chance to learn gender and law. There are many American scholars to teach us gender and law and feminism and human rights in America. So with the 2 weeks study, we have a deep comprehension about gender and law. And then I fell in love with feminism. I think the collections of administrative law and feminism is that administrative law should borrow ideas from feminism. With the feminism thought, administrative law can solve social problems more effectively. For example, in my research on the government's duty of prohibiting gender discrimination, in China, I think that to prohibit gender discrimination needs the endeavor from the whole society, not just the individuals, but also the public bodies, especially the government. Because in China, the government has a very, very big power. If the government can can try to prohibit gender discrimination, it will be more effective. But in China, for a long time, we don't realize that it is a government's duty. So if we can let the government officials have the feminism thought, that it will be easy to form the agreement that it is the government's duty to prohibit gender discrimination. So I think the collection is that. I think there are two things. First one is that the public in China, the public also already has a awareness about the anti-gender discrimination, but there's still a very, very big influence from the traditional notion For example, in our investigation, according to the data, it shows that more than 50% of the people think that if they encounter a domestic violence or sexual harassment, they will choose to fight and find a public method to protect their rights. So it's over half. I think it's a very, very good data. But when we ask the question, what's the role of how about the role of the men and women in the family? Most of the people think that women should lead a major, should play a leading role inside the family, and the men should play a leading role outside the family. So it's a traditional notion, and most people agree with that traditional notion. And I think secondly, it is about the evaluation of the legislation of women's rights in China. The valuation is not very high. Only 13% people think that the legislation about women's rights in China is valued and runs well. So we need to improve our legislation in China. I think the reason why I come here is very easy, that Emory and Emory Law School is very, very wonderful. When I got a scholarship from China Scholarship Council to come here to study, I searched on the internet and find that Emory University and Emory Law School all have a high ranking in USA, and Professor Feynman is a leading scholar in the family law. She is the most cited author in family law, and her feminism and legal theory project runs very well here. There are many international scholars here. We can work together. For example, the scholars from other American law school and Europe, Africa, Asia, we all work together and discuss with each other, even make friends with each other and learn from each other. And Professor Feynman also hold many workshops here. She invites many famous feminism scholars to come here to discuss the topics, and we can learn from their speeches during the workshop, and we can also discuss and learn from them. I think there are many chances to study, and there are many valuable things to do good to our research here. So I choose to come here. I think the similarity is that both American and China face the same problem, that we need to improve our protection of women's rights, especially after China have carried out the market economy reform and opening up policy. In a commercial market, in a commercial society, people is not only in the family but also in the labor market. So the protection of women's rights become more and more complicated. So the method to protect women's rights and the theory leads to improved. So both of China needs to improve our protection of women's rights according to the change of the women's role in the society. I think that's the similarity. And the difference, and I think there are two big differences. There are, the first one is that compared with American federalism, in China, there is you find government system which requires the full subordination of the local government to the central government. So if there is a women rights program, in American there is a national level one and also a state level one. But in China, if there is a national level women program, it can be applied to all the local government, to all the area in China. And the local government just can draft some rules and implementation to applicate that national women program. I think that's the big difference. And the second big difference is that the history of protection of women's rights. Compared with American, our Chinese women have admiring legal standards. But American women need to fight for rights for a long time. But our Chinese women already have a very high legal standards. For example, in the first constitutional law in 1954, there is already an article said that Chinese women have the equal rights with men. So we don't need to fight for rights. But the real problems for Chinese women's rights is that there is a gap between the legal standards and the social reality. I think that's the real problem for Chinese women's rights. I think for me, the most valuable research here for me is about the vulnerability, Professor Martha's vulnerability theory. So I think I will introduce this theory to Chinese, especially the Chinese government, that there is a vulnerability theory. And I also want to make some training classes in the government. There is some in China now to train the official in the government to learn the feminism theory. I think it will be more effective. I think the first one is I will study the materials I collect here. There are many useful materials in this library, and I will carry back and learn more and make some deep research on these materials. And secondly, I want to write some articles on this topic, especially the women's rights in the welfare administration. And thirdly, I plan to translate some books or articles into Chinese, especially Martha's new book on vulnerability.
Great.
Yeah.